Okay, good morning, everybody. ואלה תולדות יצחק בן אברהם. Those are the descendants of Toldot. I don't know how to explain it in English. יצחק בן אברהם, Yitzchak, the son of Avram. Avram הוליד את יצחק. Avram gave birth to Yitzchak. And this is very strange what's written here. Because everybody is asking, if Yitzchak is the son of Avram, so of course that Avram gave birth to Yitzchak. It's a son. So why is the Torah telling us this from two sides? And there are a lot of explanations. But one of the explanation is that the problem with Yitzchak was that when they saw Yitzchak and he gave birth, because Ele Toldot, those are the descendants, those are the children he brought to the land. Toldot is what you give birth to, what you do in your life. That's Toldot. So what happened later on? We see that he's got two children, twins. One is Yaakov, the other one is Esau. One is a tzaddik, the other one is a rasha. So people looked at it and said, now we understand. Sarah Imeinu hasn't got any children. And after she's been with Avimelech, the king of Gerar, suddenly she gave birth. She got pregnant and she gave birth to two children. And one is a tzaddik and one is a rasha. So if we're thinking about this, so it must be that the rasha is from the side of Avimelech. And the tzaddik is from the side of Sarah. So Avraham Avinu, he is not the father. So what did Kodesh Baruch Hu do? He made the face of Yitzchak the same as the face of Avram. So, Ele Toldot Yitzchak ben Abraham. So this is the story of Yitzchak, the son of Abraham. And everybody looked at Yitzchak, so immediately Abraham ordered Yitzchak, because he looked the same as Avram. So there was no mistake. Nobody could say what. Then later on, when they had two children, one is a rasha and one is a tzaddik, that it came from Avimelech Chas v'sholom, because they saw that Yitzchak looked the spitted image of Avram. This is one explanation. The other explanation is for us to understand and realize that we have to combine forces. What does it mean? Avram is the pillar of mercy, of love. And Yitzchak is the pillar of Gvura, of braveness, of din, judgment. And only after Akedat Yitzchak, he could get married, because we see that till the age of 37, he did nothing. Only at the age of 40, he got married and brought children to the world. In other words, he had to go through the procedure of Akedat Yitzchak in order to be ready to get married and to bring to Am Yisrael, bring Yaakov Avinu, which is our father. And what is the idea here? What? Yitzchak was not tzaddik enough. Avram was not tzaddik enough. But what happened in Akedat Yitzchak is that Avram, that was all mercy, all love, he had to sacrifice his son. And in his mind, that's what he did, even though eventually he didn't sacrifice his son, but he sacrificed a deer. But in his mind, he was sacrificing his son. But when he did this, he got to the level of getting together with Yitzchak. And the same thing is with Yitzchak. Yitzchak also got to the level of this unbelievable connection with Avram, his father, in this action that elevate both of them to the greatest height that a human being can get. And when they did this, they were as one. It's very hard to understand, but that's the way the Torah, when you go inside the Torah, you understand what's the meaning, what's the idea behind all this unbelievable thing to sacrifice your son, really. But now we start to understand that in order to get to the level of getting the knowledge and understanding who God is and what is your task in life, sometimes you have to do the impossible in order to get to that level. And when Avraham Avinu and Yitzchak were in this episode of Akedat Yitzchak, both of them got to a level which they understood that in life, you need both. You need love and you need gvura. You need ahava, you need chesed, and you need din. You need judgment, you need the side of Dvura, and when you haven't got those both combined, you've got something missing. It's not that Avraham Avinu didn't have the power of Yitzchak, and it's not that Yitzchak didn't have the power of Avraham, but when they took from each other this braveness of Yitzchak, this din of Yitzchak, and Yitzchak took the love of Avraham, they got to the level which made him, let's say, made Yitzchak the son of Avraham. In other words, the Torah said, Ele Toldot Yitzchak ben Avraham. This is what happened with Yitzchak, the son of Avraham. Avraham olided Yitzchak, like, let's say there was a biological birth and there was a spiritual birth. In other words, the spiritual birth happened when Avraham gave birth to Yitzchak again in Akedat Yitzchak, while he put into Yitzchak his power of mercy, his power of love. And with this power, Yitzchak now could get married and bring to the world Yaakov. And Yaakov, he already brought the 12 tribes, Am Yisrael, to the world. There is also another thing, that Yitzchak is the son of Avraham, but he had another son. He had Esau. Avraham had another son, Ishmael. But this was before he got the hay in his name. But Avraham, with the hay, he is the one who gave birth to Yitzchak. In other words, Yitzchak is the one that he's going to go on with the way of life that Avraham gave to him, and he gave to Yaakov, and Yaakov gave it to us. This is the idea of Ele Toldot Yitzchak ben Avraham, Avraham olidet Yitzchak. Then, when we look at it, at the Parsha, there is a very interesting thing. In order to get a good, let's say, marriage, a good pair, a good shidduch, you need to find not what is exactly like you, or sometimes not even what is good for everybody else, but what is good for you and for her. A lot of times people are looking for the same, like the boy looks for a girl that is going to be the same as him, and the girl looks for a boy that's going to be the same as her, and normally this doesn't work. Because if you are the same, it's like you take two pieces of wood, the same, they don't stick together. But if you take pieces of wood that are, one is with things that go out and the other one's got the holes, when you put them together, then they stick and you cannot move them. In other words, when we look at this combination of Avraham and Yitzchak, this is exactly what we have to look in marriage, in relationship between people, to fulfill each other's needs, to take the good from both sides and put it together. And this is when we look at the Parsha and we look at the interesting point of Be'er Mayim Chayim. There is a whole discussion about the whales, and it's called Mayim Chayim, life water. And what's the meaning of life water? In Hebrew, you say Be'er is a whale, you say Bor, it's a hole. Now, you have a hole with water and you have a whale with water. Now, a Be'er, it's the same letters as Bor, but with the Aleph. In other words, the Navi, the prophet says, Be'erot nishbarim, it's written Bet Aleph Resh Vav Taf, but it's really a bore, a Be'er. The water comes in and out. It comes all the way. It's fresh water. But in a hole, which is not a whale, which is not a be'er, a bore, the water stays there. Eventually, it's going to rot, and it's going to be dangerous to drink the water. In other words, you need good water. This is the discussion between when we see that the Palestinians, they are covering the be'erot that Abraham Avinu dig in the earth, and Yitzchak is recovering, is renewing the whales, and he's even doing another one, opening a new one. And it's this whole discussion. Why do we need to know all of it? Because that's exactly the thing. Sometimes in life, you see, when you look at a hole in the ground, a bore, and you look at the whale, from outside they look the same. Only when you get closer and you realize this is a ball, this is water that stands there and it's going to rot, it's not going to hold, and it's going to be dangerous, it's going to be poison if you let those water stay there. From the other side, a whale, a be'er, the water are changing all the time. This is life, and this is the acid of life, water. In other words, in life, you can see things that from the outside, they look like well, they look like be'er mayim chayim, but at the end of the day, they are a ball. They are a hole in the ground with still water, and this is dangerous. How do you see the difference? The difference is very simple. When you look at life, you have to dig in and see what is this really. Not only look from the outside, look in the inside, understand and realize what it's all about. And this is exactly what Yitzchak is telling us. Yitzchak is telling us, be aware, be careful of all those who look from the outside like good water, but they really still water, bad water that's going to poison you. You have to look for only one source of water, be'er mayim chayim, life water, which is the Torah. And when you look for this, it's amazing that the shidduchim from Yaakov, from Yitzchak, Moshe Rabbeinu, they were all made near the whale, near the be'er, because this is to tell us how to establish good relationship. When we want to establish good relationship, if it's as a par, as a married couple, if it's a couple, if it's friends, if it's society, if it's a congregation, if it's your family, the foundation must be be'er mayim chayim, life water, a whale with life water. And what is suitable for one is not always suitable for the other. As we said, when we look for the right combination, we don't look for somebody that's exactly as us, but we look for somebody that we can combine together and join forces in order to fulfill each other. And then we get to the whole.
You think about that when you...
Sorry?
No, sorry.
Okay. For example, there is this story was a Rosh Yeshiva had two great scholars in his yeshiva, Talmidei Chachamim, and they got to the age of getting a shidduch, and they found them two shidduchim, two girls, and everybody was very happy about one of them, and not so happy about the other one, because the one girl, she was known as a chesed, doing chesed all the time, and she really, they were so happy for this guy, for their friend, that he got this unbelievable shidduch, this eshet chesed, to mercy and love, and she was giving and giving to everybody, unbelievable. From the other side, the other guy, he got a girl that she was known as very selfish, very like caring about herself and not so about others. The funny thing is, they both got married, Baruch Hashem, and two girls go on, they went on with the same attitude they had before, with the same behavior. And what was happening is that the girl that was giving all the time, she gave everybody, but not to her husband, because her husband was like her. They were one. That's the idea of a couple. That's about the idea of getting together. In other words, she was giving everybody, but forgot that she's got a husband, because she was used to give. She didn't care about herself, only on the others. But now she had her husband with her, and he suffered from this because she was going on giving to others and not to him. From the other side, the other girl who was egoistic, who was only caring about herself, she didn't care about nobody else except her husband. And she was giving him all the time because she felt he is like her. So she was the selfishness also was working on her husband or her spouse. And now who was happier? The one who married a girl that was giving and giving, or the one who made the girl who married a girl that was taking and taking? I must say, this is not to preach to look for somebody who is egoistic, not at all. It's just to show us how sometimes things that look from the outside good or bad are not really like this, because it depends what is involved and how you connect the things. In other words, of course, you need to have mercy. Of course, you need to be a giver. And of course, you cannot be a taker. But the real thing is when you combine those things. This is what the Torah is telling us with Ele Toldot Yitzchak ben Abraham, Abraham Olid Yitzchak. The story here is about giving and taking. But the taking is in order to give. In other words, if you don't join forces, if you don't take from the others, if you don't get anything from life, so you've got nothing to give. In order to give, you have to use your abilities and the abilities of others to combine forces, and then you give much better things, much good. You do the unbelievable things. But if you're by yourself and you only have your own power, this is not enough. This is not fulfilling the task for what you came to this world. This is exactly what the Torah is telling us, even with great people. Avram and Yitzchak were great people. They were our ancestors. Avram was a tzaddik, Yitzchak was a tzaddik. Avram is the pillar of chesed, and Yitzchak is the pillar of gvura, of din. But what does it mean? Does it mean that Yitzchak's got no chesed and Avram's got no gvura? Of course not. But the main thing that they had, that one had the chesed, the other one had the gvura. And in order to bring the right fruit to the world, to do the right deed, to bring the right thing of what you do is to combine both, to combine the chesed with the gvura. And when you do this, you get to the complete the merge, merging both forces to one force that is going to bring unbelievable things to the world. This is when we have right side and left side, but only when we take them together, you can get something out. This is when you have a male and a female. A male alone cannot give birth to nothing. A female alone cannot give birth to nothing. Only when the male and the female get together, then they give birth. And this is in life. We have to combine forces, and then we bring new life to the world. But this has to be done from a well of living water, of Mayim Chaim. Only with Mayim Chaim can you get to this level. When we talk about Me'er Mayim Chaim, we're talking about our tradition. Being Jewish here in Israel is not always very easy. And this is again to show us the picture that we see from outside and try and look a little inside. I heard an interview with a woman that left the religion and went the opposite way. And they asked her, do you believe in God? She says, no. So nothing from what you learned before, when you were religious is with you. She said, no, on the contrary. I keep doing Kiddush on Shabbos. I keep not eating chometz on Pesach, and a few other things. So the interviewer asked her, why? Why do you do this? If you don't believe, why do you keep Pesach? Why do you light candles on Shabbos? Why do you do Kiddush on Shabbos if you don't believe? She says, I want my children to have the Jewish tradition. And you think about it, it's so, how do you say, strange. It's so crooked. It's so not real. Because you have to understand, this land, this state, Eretz Israel, was built on the foundation of a Jewish country, of the tradition of Am Israel. And here is a question. Can you have tradition without religion? Can you have a non-religion state and call it a Jewish state? Can you have a state with no connection to the Jewish tradition? And who is the one who will tell us what is the Jewish tradition? Like they asked the mayor of Tel Aviv, that now is fighting, he wants that the Rakevet, the new Rakevet Kala, the light train, which is going to, in 2 years or 1 year, is going to start going from, I think, from Petah Tikva to Bat Yam to Tel Aviv. He wants it to work on Shabbos, and there is a whole argument if this Rakevet, this is public transportation, should work on Shabbos or not. And he also is the one who started that public transportation will be on Shabbos in Tel Aviv. And there was a lot of argument about it. And somebody asked him, tell me, I don't understand. Do you really want Eretz Israel to be like all other countries? Do you want us to be like all the goyim around the world? And you know what he answered? I couldn't believe it. He says, no, I want this to be a Jewish country. I want the Jewish tradition. I want Shabbos, because I asked him, do you want Shabbos to look like Tuesday? Is this what you think? He says, no, I want Shabbos to look like Shabbos. So I thought to myself, okay, next time if I have a question how to keep Shabbos, instead of going and ask the Rav, I'm going to ask the mayor of Tel Aviv. He is going to tell me what is Jewish tradition. When from the other side, everybody's shouting Adata, you're forcing the religion on people. What's going on here? This is all borot nishbarim. This is exactly those holes in the ground that got water and they look from the outside like a whale, but they're not a whale of living water. It's dead water. It's still water. It's rotten water. It only looks from the outside. And this is exactly what we have to understand. A Jewish state has to be connected to the Jewish tradition. There is no Jewish state without tradition. There's a state, but not Jewish. And unfortunately, we see the influence of those things all around us. When people don't realize, what are we doing? Why are we? Because if we like all the other goyim, so let us all go back from where we came from. Because who was born here 3 or 4 generations ago? Who? Almost nobody. Everybody comes from a different country in the world, but nobody wanted us there. They wanted to kill us, to destroy us. So Baruch Hashem, God brought us back to Eretz Israel. And what do? We want to be like the Goyim? Did we forget what the Goyim did to us and what they're doing to us today? Don't we understand that our power is in Be'er Mayim Chayim? Our power is combine our forces together to build a country that is based on the Jewish tradition. Don't we understand this? Don't we understand this? This is the Jewish home of the Jewish nation. The same as a Jewish couple builds his home on the base, should do, on the base of the Jewish tradition, combining forces in order to build a beautiful country. Yes, from one side, love, mercy, from the other side, heroic, judgment, gvura, braveness. Combine the braveness of building this country, of building a Jewish home, in the meaning of each one of us as an individual and each one of us as a part of Am Yisrael. Show them the heroic side of us, but with the love from the other side. But love by itself is not enough, because love by itself can bring you to love the wrong things and do the wrong thing for your love. Like Rivka and Yitzchak, they love both their kids. And it's written that Rivka loves Yaakov and Yitzchak loves Esau. And why really Yitzchak wants to give the blessing to Esau? Because he doesn't see the real picture. And Rivka sees the real picture. What Yitzchak thinks that he knows exactly, and they both of them loved both their kids. Definitely. That's tzaddikim. Yitzchak and Rivka. Well, they don't love one, only the other, one of the twins they don't love. Of course, Rivka loves Esau, and Yitzchak loves Yaakov. But he shows his love to Esau in order to bring him nearer to the tradition. And Rivka understands that the real thing is Yaakov and not Esau. So Yitzchak thinks, he knows Yaakov is a scholar. He sits and learns. I want him to go on sit learning. But somebody has to provide. So he thinks this unbelievable plan, which, by the way, is an idea that we see in the Bible all the time. That's the agreement between Issachar and Zvulun. One sits and learns, and the other one provides a parnasa. So he said, Esav is not somebody's going to sit in yeshiva and learn. So what should I do? I should give Esav the power, the strength, the wealth, that he can support Yaakov. And Yaakov will sit on that, and he's going to bring the parnasa. Beautiful plan. But Rivka, she knows it's not going to work. She knows, on the contrary, if Esav is going to get all the money and all the abilities to bring the parnasa. What is he going to do with it? Imagine to yourself somebody who's alcoholic, a drug addict, and a villain, and a gambler. What do you think he's going to do when he gets money? Is he going to support the poor? Is he going to support his brother? Or is he going to waste the money on gambling, on drinking, and on drugs? And Rivka knows that's exactly what Esav is going to do. And in this way, she's going to lose both kids. She's going to lose Esau because he's going to take drugs and drink, and eventually you'll find him dead in one of the alleys. And from the other side, nobody's going to support Yaakov, and he won't have anything to live on. So what is the solution? She says, if I want to save both my kids, I should give all the power to Yaakov. And when the tzaddik gets the power, is he going to look after his brother? Of course. So in this way, she saves both of them. Yaakov is going to get the power, and Esav is going to be supported by Yaakov, which is going to help him get out of the vicious circle of drugs and gambling and doing all those evil things. Because if he's got the power, he can force him to go the right way, force him in a nice way that eventually will bring them both together to fulfill their task in life. Again, you need to have the power in the right hands. You need to give the abilities to the right person. And if you want to combine both forces, you have to be very clever how to do it. That's the secret of Toldot Yitzchak ben Avraham, Avraham Ovid Yitzchak. That's the secret of knowing how to combine the right forces in the right way to have a Jewish home from the point of view of a couple, from the point of view of Am Israel, and from the point of view of the state of Israel. If we do this in the right way, if we go and take our water from Be'er Mayim Chayim, from living water, then we will not only survive, we will multiply and elevate ourselves and get ourselves to the Geulah Shlema b'mira b'yameinu amen. But if we go the wrong way, if we look what's happening outside and think for a minute that you can be like all others going, that's a that is a hole in the ground with still water. No good is going to come out of it. Bezrat Hashem, we should all drink our water from the Be'er Mayim Chayim, which our ancestors did their shidduchim there and teaching us what is the right water to drink. And the water is the acid of life. And the water of the Torah is also, of course, the acid of life. We have the physical life with the spiritual life combined together. We do it in the right way when we go to Be'er Mayim Chayim. When we know and understand that we have to combine forces, to combine the power of Abraham with the power of Yitzchak, and get Yaakov, who's got both powers, in order to bring out all the good that we've got. All the best and have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Man. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you
welcome.
very much.